Well, hello, hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Amy Carney, the author of Parent on Purpose, and I'm really excited about today's webinar, Parenting Strategies to Launch Your Child with Confidence. And as a mom of six who has already launched four children off into adulthood, off to college, at least anyway, I am so excited to introduce you to a mentor, friend of mine, author whose books has written three books at least that have helped me in my parenting. And today we're going to focus on his most recent book, Wings Not Strings, Parenting Strategies to Let Go with Confidence. So let me welcome author Dennis Trittin to the stage.
Hi, Amy. It's great to be with you. And hello, everyone out there.
Well, thanks so much for being with us. I know you've got so much information. We've got only so much time. So I want to just dive right in and let you share your wisdom as a dad of two and mentor to many. What do you have for us? I mean, I love this quote in your book where it says, the fact is many parents are struggling mightily with letting go, and countless young adults are finding life on their own to be a rude awakening. Make no mistake, these experiences are linked. So as parents, we all share the same goal to raise confident, responsible, and motivated young adults who are ready to take on the world. But how do we truly prepare them to thrive in adulthood? And maybe even harder, exactly do we prepare ourselves as parents, right, to let them go with confidence? So take it away, Dennis.
Okay. Hello again, everyone. So I thought what I would do is to talk about three different areas today. The first one is, how do we develop an empowering parenting strategy that will allow our kids to be eagles to soar to their destination, giving them wings, not strings, which of course is the title of our recent book. We're going to talk also about how we develop and adapt our relationship, because we're going to be spending more time with our kids in the adult years even than when they're in our homes. And so we need to adapt our communications. And then the third area that we'll be talking about is, how do we train them? What do we all need to cover in order for the kids to feel prepared and for us to feel prepared as well? So for starters, let's just touch on philosophy. What does an empowering parenting philosophy look like? Well, many of you are familiar with the book from Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of my favorite of his 7 habits is to begin with the end in mind. And that means we need to envision what our kids are going to be dealing with when they have left our nest. And we need to be able to actually start treating them as the future adult that they are, rather than a child. And that frames everything. The second key component in this is training them for independence. And we'll be talking about, how do we actually move from the driver's seat to the passenger seat in our kids' lives? And then thirdly, how do we go about in adapting our communications so as they're pushing us away during these teen years, we can still have that close relationship with them and have our wisdom stick with them. But there are some strategies we need to be pursuing in order to make that happen. So just a little bit more in the, okay, how do we actually do the philosophy of empowered parenting? Here again, it's going to sound a little bit like a business talk, but we set our goals. A number of families actually create family mission statements, which are incredibly helpful. We've got an example of that on our website and also in Wings Not Strings. But it's really important to be thinking in terms of our goals. What are the things that our kids are going to need to know in order for them to be confident when they launch, and in order for us as parents to be confident that we've covered all of the bases? And then the rest of it really is implementing our daily lives to achieve those goals. And there are 4 areas that we'll be talking about when it comes to training that parents need to take the leadership role in. One of them is building our kids' leadership skills. Another is their core values that are so critical to their character in life. The third area is practical life skills, these things that they're not going to have us around to do all day long. They need to learn it themselves. And then finally, we're going to help build self-awareness in our kids because they need to understand who they are in order to make wise decisions about what their purpose and their dreams look like.
Okay, awesome. So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, when do I start this? Like, what age, right? Do I start looking at the end? I know for me, and tell me if this is what you teach and preach, but I had a strategy, and it's in my book as well, about 6 years ahead, parents 6 years ahead. So that meant like starting at age 12, which is really middle school, right? Beginning middle school, you start looking at the end. And that's basically what I started doing. What do you say? What's a good age to start moving over right into that driver's seat? When do we start looking at the end realistically, right?
You
I mean,
bet.
we should be doing it all along, but it's a little harder when they're young.
Well, it is. And, the What I Wish I Knew at 18 book that I wrote that covers 109 success principles for life goes into all of these things about leadership and core values and career, college, marriage, finances. It's basically life in a book. Although that book was written primarily for the high schooler, it applies equally to middle schoolers. And what I would say to your question, Amy, is that there are a number of these areas that you can start teaching in elementary school. Core values, for example, that is a no-brainer. Leadership skills. How do you introduce yourself to new people and look like professionals? So I would say the earlier you start, the easier it's going to be because you'll have all of those years ahead of you to just reinforce those. So the mindset needs to, I like what you said about 6 years ahead, always looking ahead. But when it comes to launch time, the big game changer is they're out of our home. We don't have them next year as a junior in high school. So some of those skills, I would say you have to use your judgment. Are these things that are more high school related? Other ones more middle school related? It's gonna depend.
Yeah, I agree. I think the goal is that if I understand this right, the empowered parent philosophy is empowering ourselves, right, to teach the skills, teach all the, whatever we can based on that adult that we will all launch one day, right?
Absolutely. And I think the hardest thing for us as parents is to understand that we need to take the leadership role in this. The fact of the matter is schools only cover a small amount of what kids really need to do to be prepared. And I think a lot of us overestimate how much of all of this they're going to be learning in school. And it's a rude awakening. And unless, again, we take that leadership role.
Exactly. Well, that reminds me, my whole first section of my book is lead on purpose, right? And I know so much of our work crosses over, right? We just believe in the same philosophy in parenting, and leadership is first and foremost, right? If our parents or our children need us to help lead them, right? And we don't want to wait till the last semester of senior year to start piling it all in. Like, we want to start today, no matter where you're at.
Absolutely. And so the more we can just kind of do it along the way, I mean, clearly there are going to be some things, especially when you start to get into college prepping and things like that. The applications they're going to have to be doing. Some of those are going to be more for the later high school years. But boy, the earlier, the better. Then it won't seem so much like we're in teach mode. They get it along the way. That makes it so much easier.
Yes. Okay. So now we're going to dive into your point 2, moving from driver to passenger. Tell us what you mean by this, and when in the world do we start moving from driver to passenger?
Yes, you bet. So the key thing in moving from driver to passenger is, for us to understand that our job is to be teaching our kids things that they need to know and that they are ready to do now, rather than for us to stay in helping mode. And that's a bit of a mind shift for people like myself. If you do an Enneagram on me, I'm an achiever helper. So I love helping. I love doing things for people, but that's just not the best thing when it comes to getting our kids ready for their launch into independence. So we need to start treating them like the adult that they are becoming. So what it means then is for us to change our philosophy to becoming more of a coach in the style that we work with our kids, and a chief encourager, and also one who affirms our kids all along the way. So obviously our communication style changes a lot. We don't want to be, as I describe it, as that boss, the bossy parent at that age. The kids are going to be pushing us away more and more if we continue to do that. And I'll share a brief story that will reinforce this. I talk a lot about, when we train our kids to ride a bike, at some point the parents have to let go of the steering wheel. They got the training wheels, but we don't want to still hold onto the steering wheel. I mean, the handlebars. The kids need to continue to allow that freedom so eventually they can do it on their own. And so here's a story of a mom that just didn't understand this. Dear friend of mine was a former executive at a high-tech company, was interviewing the leading candidate. He was about a 29-year-old young man, leading candidate for the position. On paper, the job was his. Well, he shows up for his interview with his mother. And my friend stopped the interview at the very beginning and says, "Excuse me, ma'am, why are you here?" And she says, "I am here to help my son get this job. He is absolutely, I'm convinced, the most qualified person." And my friend interrupted her and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I have some bad news. This interview is over. And I hope seriously that you never do this again, because he will have a very hard time landing a job if you are with him." So that's the what not to do. What do we do then? Okay, well, some years ago, there was an organization called Performance Advantage that did surveys of people all around the country about what they liked the most in their boss, that motivated them the most to be their best in the workforce. And the first one was being appreciated and recognized. The second one was being involved in decisions and respected for their points of view and input. And the third one was to be understanding and approachable. And as I was writing our parenting books, I couldn't help but think how much this relates to the way our kids would view us. So they want to be recognized. They want to be respected. They're getting older. We need to understand that. And they also want to see us as someone that's going to listen to them and be a comfortable place to come to. And so when it comes to the communication strategies, we talk a lot about this in our two books. But some of the ones that I'm going to emphasize today are to start thinking share with versus talk to. And trust me, that will be much more welcoming to your kids. The second one is making sure you share the why. I don't think because I said so ever works with kids of any age, but it certainly doesn't work with teenagers. They need to understand why they're learning what they're learning, why it's so valuable, because that imparts the wisdom that they're all going to need. The third strategy for teens that is so critical is what I call meet them where they are. Find out the places, the times of day, the days of week that they open up the most. We have to become students of our kids. And I know for me, it took me longer than I wish, but our kids opened up the most in coffee shops. So I started taking them regularly to coffee shops, and we wound up engaging so much more. Whereas other parents, it's around the kitchen table, it's around, the kitchen itself during cooking, whatever that is, meet them where they are. And then finally, a strategy that I love to share is to invite them into our family decisions. And that, again, shows them respect. Have them, if you're a family of faith, ask for them to pray for you about certain things. That would really honor your kids. And then finally, I'm going to just share, recruit other great adults to come alongside and become mentors for your kids. If there's one thing I did right as a father, it's I know a lot of amazing people, and I brought them into the lives of our kids, and it made a huge difference. They still have those relationships. So as kids start to kind of devalue a little bit about what mom and dad say to them, bring in other voices. You'd be amazed at how the wisdom you are imparting, but spoken from someone else, will wind up sticking more than you ever thought.
Awesome, Dennis. I will say, I think you're a nicer parent than I am. I'm totally like, because I said so. That's why I don't know.
Well, I'm sure I did too. I'll tell you, and you can agree with this. The most convicting thing in the whole world has got to be writing parenting books, because we'd love to have our do-overs. I mean, our kids we're just loving to death, and it's a close family. They're doing well. But oh man, if I could have had the wisdom from our books, your book especially, along the way, I know I would have been a better dad.
Yeah. Well, and I'm still raising two. So I love some of those tips, and I'm going to think about those more. I wanted to share something about what it looked like for moving from driver to passenger seat in my world, is allowing them to fail, is allowing them to make mistakes. It doesn't feel good, right? As the parents, when they got in the car without their laptop for school, or their lunch, or or their instrument, or whatever it is. But I got to the point, where I think middle school, where it was like, I'm sorry, mom's not gonna be able to bring you. No, the school doesn't want us bringing it either. Like, just think about that, right? We've got to allow them to make mistakes. It's okay. That's how they learn. And I have several stories in my book about that, but it does not feel good as a parent. Like you said, we want to swoop in, we want to help. And it gets to the point where that's not helpful anymore, if that has become a habit, right? So I've got a few blogs, I think, that I had written about this, and how I kind of discern whether I'm going to bring something, because the problem is, you got the phone now, right? And they text you. They're texting you, emergency, right? It just becomes a habit, because we can get a hold of each other at any point. And then we get the text and we're like, oh no. And we want to rescue them. And we got to sit back, right? And decide, is this helpful to them? Is this helpful to that adult that we're going to launch into the world, or not? And so that was just a piece that I know I had to work on, because, I'm a nurturing parent, but I also knew my goals, and, letting them make mistakes and learn from it was maybe one of the hardest things, as far as moving from driver to passenger, right?
You bet. Oh, no, absolutely. So let's dive in a little bit, with the limited time we have left, on training. I mean, wow. Okay. So we are now kind of, in a sense, their trainers. We're their coaches, but we're also kind of their trainers. So the first area that we want to train our kids on is in the area I call core values. And these are things that you can do. I would encourage parents of elementary kids to start having those conversations about what are the values that as a family we hold most dear, and have the kids be a part of this. One thing that I have on my website, dennistrittin.com, under the resources tab, is I have a little exercise. It's called positive traits and values. That'll give you a really good head start, maybe to share it with your family, and pick and choose which of those values and traits that you find individually the most valuable. And then let's hold each other accountable to those. But you think of examples like integrity, which if that's not number one, it better be close to the top of your list. I would say that's virtually a requirement. But also, kindness, humility, respect, high standards of excellence, gratitude. Those are examples of the core values that we can train our kids early on. The second area would be practical life skills. And here, Amy's work and also Monica Swanson is outstanding as well in the area of those practical life skills. What are the things that, imagine your kids away at college. They are away from your nest. They are now in college. What are those things they need to learn on their own? And I want to share just a couple of quick things, fun laundry stories. My mom never taught me how to do the laundry. So when I went and I put my 25 cents into the slot and then wound up getting my clothes, I thought the soap was automatically in the washing machine, and it wasn't. I quickly discovered that and got trained on it. But the best story, and this is so encouraging for you parents out there, is no son, trust me, wants to learn how to do his laundry. Okay, that's not going to be fun. But what happened in this story from a mom that I heard about a year ago was that when he came home, her son from college at Thanksgiving time, he thanked his mom for teaching him how to do his laundry. He was the only one on his dorm floor that knew how to do the laundry. And let me tell you, all of these guys were so impressed with this guy's mom that she had the presence to teach him laundry. And it's like, they may not appreciate you now, but one day, trust me, they will. I love that. Second thing, make sure.
Hold on, I had to jump in on that. Jump in on that because, I sent 4 off to college, and that was my exact experience, is that they had done their laundry for years at home, and they couldn't believe, like you said, they were like the only ones that knew how to do their laundry. And it's, they were teaching, these are 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, right? How to do their laundry, and it's fine. But you know what is one thing? People are paying their services now.
Yeah.
You pay big money to have someone do your child's laundry. And my son would send me photos of kids carrying their laundry to the laundry truck. Like, yeah, I think I'll spend my money elsewhere. But anyway.
Yeah, that's what we would call strings. Those are the strings, right? The kite that we continue to control with our strings. And we don't want that, because after college, they're at some point, they're going to need to know how to do this on their own. Exactly. The second thing I was just going to briefly touch on with life skills has to do with making sure they know how to change a tire. I thought kids learn this in driver's ed, and they don't. So one day our daughter was home on her first visit from college. It was a 5-hour trip home. And trust me, that morning I had this instinct. I'm thinking about her on this long trip and realizing that I don't think I ever trained her. So when she got home, I asked her, I said, sweetie, did I ever train you how to change your tire? She said, no. I said, tomorrow morning, we're going to do this. So Saturday morning, I taught her. Sunday morning, I kid you not, 40 minutes into her drive back, she calls me and said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I just got a flat. And thank the Lord, we had gone over this, so it was a good ending to the story. But man, just don't make assumptions that they know more than they really do. The third category and topic. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy. Oh, Amy, I've lost your voice. I think you're still on mute.
Thank you.
There you go.
I want to dive in on the change the tire thing, because a lot of times we're reactive of that, right? Like, I don't even think I remember how to do it myself, but I don't know how to necessarily change it or teach someone how to change a tire. And my husband is working and gone a lot. So I ended up getting a mentor, a neighbor friend, to teach my boys. And he loved it. He's a big car guy. That's really not our thing. And he had them all over, and he taught them how to change a tire. So that's another thing, right? Grab mentors to
bring these
to help you teach. So
we're not going to know everything. I mean, I didn't need a mentor for finance, but I would certainly have needed a mentor on any number of those topics.
Exactly.
The third category I want to just touch on quickly is leadership and decision making. And here again, What I Wish I Knew at 18 has tons of content on that, because the book was about how to turn your kids to become great leaders. And so in the workplace, what are some of those what they call soft skills that kids need to know? Biggest complaint has to do with work ethic, dependability. They need to understand professionalism, decision making, how to get along with people, how to take constructive feedback. One of the biggest complaints we're getting from the workplace now is kids really struggle with getting any kind of constructive feedback. Well, they're not going to have what they call the growth mindset if they're really resistant to getting that feedback. So those are some of those professional skills that we need. And in my website, under the resources tab, I have some articles in there about some of those workplace readiness skills. One is a paper called How to Be an MVP Employee. That is fabulous. So I would draw your attention to that. And then the last category for training is on self-awareness. The kids need to know, I should say the emerging adults need to know who they are and what they're excited about, what they're interested in, what their purpose in life may be, what their aptitudes are, their skills, their assets. Because if they don't know them, understand themselves and their strengths and interests, they're not going to make good career decisions. And there is a recent survey that was done by Gallup, and the number one regret from people that have college degrees is what they majored in. Literally 40% of people out there regretted the major they chose. And when you think of all of the money that parents and kiddos are spending on college education, they're winding up in so many cases getting into the wrong areas or the wrong fields. And it's because they didn't know themselves ahead of time and do the research they needed to do. So there are any number of websites out there that are free. One I'm going to share, careerbridge.wa for Washington.gov. They have a host of resources on career readiness. What are some careers that may fit? Why do I say this is important? Because you cannot count on your high schools to offer comprehensive career readiness counseling to your kids. You cannot count on that. And also, you cannot count on them learning about finances. So again, these are the things parents need to take an ownership of when it comes to training their kids.
I love it. I love it. You reminded me too of, I've got a resource that is one of my most popular. It's the life skills for the launch or before the launch. And I'm going to put that, this is the website for that. You can grab that. And it's just a one sheet printable. You can start going through to see what they know, what they don't know. And changing a tire is on here. So that, and laundry and little things to things we're probably, a lot of us are already doing. So grab that if anyone's interested. Your book, Wings Not Strings. I love it because look, it's a very small resource. I think this is perfect for a flight. Like I remember reading it on a flight, and it's got so much fantastic information. So we had a few comments here that I wanted to share so you could see right here. That Mari said, my mom had 5 kids. I was doing my laundry at 12. I learned to separate whites from colors after a couple of loads with white socks that turn pink or gray. Yes, that happens. Once you do that, right? You won't do it again. Just everyone's loving the great advice.
Oh, thanks.
So, just a lot of comments. So, you want to wrap up? Because I know we're about out of time here, Dennis.
Oh, you bet. Well, I love the comments. I would just say that today may have sounded like you're drinking out of a fire hose. But let me just say that we've got great tools and resources for you to take those next steps. I absolutely love Amy's books and think so highly of her. The What I Wish I Knew at 18 book will cover so many of the bases that that we discussed today. It really will set your kids up. I certainly wish I had this book. It was spawned by when our son was getting ready to leave for college. That was my list, my 109 list of ideas that they needed to know to be ready. And so you'll be able to check a lot of boxes off. And then go on my website, dennistrittin.com, scroll down the resources tab, and there is so much information that's all free for you. If you're interested in the books, BT Pub Services, Baker and Taylor Publishers, sell them. 1-800-BOOK-LOG, BOOKLOG is another way. But please visit me, email me on my website. There's a place that you can contact me if you have any follow-up questions. I'd love to hear from you.
Are you the only author standing that doesn't sell on Amazon?
The reason, yes, I probably am. Although the parenting books are on Amazon, but the What I Wish I Knew at 18 book and the curriculum are not. And the reason is, as a self-published author, I did the math, and I'm a financial guy. When soup came to nuts, I found there was so little margin left after Amazon and then our distributor took their pieces. So we took the What I Wish I Knew at 18 work out of Amazon, but we have Parenting for the Launch and Wings Not Strings for people to buy off of Amazon.
Yeah, I love that. That's the number one question, right? Or the number one place everybody goes, but they don't realize how many wonderful resources are actually not on there. So
yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. I so enjoy you and your work, and I thank you for spending time with us today. And I hope everyone will follow Dennis and check out his work. And I just thank you, and we will see you all soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.